Great. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our December combined legislative advocacy and community engagement and citizens advisory committee. It's a mouthful meeting. We had some scheduling conflicts with the county association for tomorrow, so we had to consolidate our meetings onto one day. And so this meeting itself wasn't really affected too much because it's usually around this day and time, but appreciate everyone's flexibility. We're gonna get right into our agenda. So the first thing that we were gonna discuss is our finalized, I hope, advocacy letter. Mr. Meralda had sent this out today to the members of the committee. And essentially it takes what we had last month, and then he had added, based on feedback from the committee, the different points that were from the survey, like regarding flexibility, as well as like allowing for the actual enrollment and cost. So sort of saying what we prefer without having to go through the dot by dot, and sort of making a statement what works best for us. And then the other thing that was added, I had done a little bit of research and found that prior to the School Funding Reform Act, there was a subsidy provided for every student enrolled in Monroe and similar resident communities that had a significant percentage of their population over 55. You were given an additional $500 per student. That was eliminated with the School Funding Reform Act in 2008. There has been legislation since then trying to get it back. So I actually reached out to Senator Greenstein's office to ask them if they would be able to help me find the bill. They did respond. It wasn't exactly the bill we were looking for. It was more about limiting building and the cost associated than this specific thing. However, I did see that there are other townships that have been requesting that this aid be restored for the $500 per student for communities with a percentage of seniors that's higher. I think they said 55%, which I don't think we're at. So I would want to see like our demographics in town. I think we're about 40% senior citizens or so, because I would hate to advocate for this and then not be eligible. But essentially that idea of an additional subsidy for the districts that are being affected with zero equalization aid because of the weird quirk in that formula. So those were the major differences. And then there was some other tweaks here and there. But does anyone have any feedback on the letter itself?
I think it was good. Yep, just wanted to mention that in addition to the revisions that Ms. Ratner included, we did receive several submissions from the committee, which we integrated. There was some attention. Again, a lot of it came back to actually what you spoke about, which would be some of the more nuanced variables that can sometimes be a little ambiguous to the public, but asking them to address them specifically, like the senior supplemental stabilization aid. I thought that was a nice addition. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to say thank you to the committee, because I know it can get frustrating, when we pass around this stuff, but it really does feel like everyone got to have their say in this letter. And I feel like as far as its recency relevance, it's as up to date as we could hope. Mm-hmm. And so I just would ask that before we put this to bed, just how would you like this to now be distributed? So we could do a couple different ways. Okay. We've in the past, we've dedicated web space, which the framework's already up there. We already have a separate line we can use for that. In addition, we can push it out to the public in Word and PDF form with an ask and maybe some links on how they could submit it. In the past, we've actually provided directions on how to submit it, just not explaining them or directing them on how and what to say.
Right.
And we could obviously we're extra careful on how we do that. But other than that, if there's any other suggestions on how to get this out there.
Is there a way we can put a signature line, or there's no room?
Oh, yeah, no.
So it's individualized,
So, yeah, and actually, we talked about that. Yeah, okay. But that would just be a matter of some formatting stuff. But if we were to do it as a web form, like we did in the past, it doesn't really matter because it just kind of scrolls down. So.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, but some people will prefer to print it and stuff.
Right.
So getting actual letters made also, make an impact.
And yeah, because sometimes the hard copy volume,
Mhm.
speaks for itself, but I
Right.
can, I could just reduce your bullet points there and your margins look a little unnecessarily spacious.
I guess, is there, because I agree with you, I wonder, is there a way to communicate that though? I also know, like, for me, it's, like, I always find it a lot harder to send the postal mail, but to sort of explain like the importance of why it would be better for someone to do it that way.
Yeah,
Or just give the option.
yeah, no, I could say, here are a couple recommendations on how you can advocate on this
Right.
issue. Option one, click this link and submit it to the following
Mhm.
leaders. In the past, we choose our local legislators and whoever's in charge, I believe it's Mr. Gopal still, of the education, or, I mean, or the
He came up with the bill, but there is someone new in
Yeah.
charge. I can look it up.
Yeah, so let's make sure, we'll clear all that out, and then, we could also offer them a link to download the letter and mail it themselves. We could provide them with some targets. And then what we could do, in addition to putting that on the website, with the new messaging service, one of the things that we have the ability to do is to tailor the, communications, point of origin. So I could create, if you have a student in high school, you may have received an email from MTSD Esports.
Mhm.
I can very easily make that say MTSD Advocacy.
Okay,
So it may, I don't know if the majority of our community is very much interested in reading about MTSD Esports, particularly those that don't have enrollment in the school. But I could very easily, that if I change the point of origin or the sender's name to be Monroe Township School District Advocacy, maybe that's a way that we can get more of our subscribers, if we have 9,000 of them,
Mhm.
to open it up and take action.
About giving it to the Monroe Township Senior Center. I always bring that up because they have they have a nice website. And I'm sure there's a lot of seniors on there that would, participate. But I do remember from a couple of years ago when we decided these letters, and Carmen's right, I agree, sending mail to them in bulk would say, look what came from Monroe Township today. Here's a bag of
Right.
letters from everybody. Because if they're gonna email it to somebody that, to me, it's up to them how they wanna do it.
Right.
But could you say it's a preference of ours to send it by mail so that they get the bulk of I don't know if you can.
I would theory about offering a preference.
Okay,
But we certainly can make all options, we
right,
can clearly communicate what their options are and how they could go about executing those options, should they choose to do so.
and I just hope a lot of them will mail it because of the fact, well, you might not have stamps, or you young people don't have stamps.
My son
I
uses
have-
them to decorate our
I
house,
have
so we
stamps.
stop.
My husband does all the bills and we send out everything with stamps. But, I'm sure most of the seniors probably have stamps too. I like
Still
them.
sell them.
Yes, oh, I know, I have to go get them.
Should have gotten those forever
No,
stamps
no,
back in the day.
Yeah, that's right, you saw Joe here.
The other thing I was gonna say, when we have the form, it's really warm in here. When we have the form letter, does that send an individual email to each person as well? So like if they got 50 people that filled it out and sent it, it would show up as 50 different emails?
So, yeah, last year, the tech department set up through, I believe it was Jot Form,
Mhm.
pull it up right now, a way that you not only could send it, you could actually decide who you want to send it to. So we actually allow them, like, you may say, I'm only communicating with this, they represent mine. So you could check off their box as opposed to, let's say, everybody. But the idea is to make sure that our anyone that wants to participate in our advocacy efforts has the opportunity to do so. Here it is here. And they can do so however they wish to do it.
Mhm.
So if you clicked on the email link, it pops up a Jot form here. There it is, which would allow you to simply move our letter along without even having to make an adjustment. But you also have the opportunity to download the letter,
Mhm.
reconstruct it however you'd like, and then send it to the legislators or leaders directly, however you want them, from your personal email address or whatever. What the Jot form does is, as you fill it out, it'll ask you for your email address.
Mhm.
I mean, there's no way to verify it, so someone can put in
Right.
like, Joe Schmo.
Yeah.
So, probably get caught up in the spam filter somewhere. That's why sometimes they prefer, it's always a little more effective to come from your official account, but
Right.
a little more tedious.
And then just the other thing, and I know, I think I had mentioned this, Mr. Roller, to you, that there were other districts that were also handling the survey that was sent out by the DOE in different ways. So some of them just sent out the link, which we realized is probably not ideal because you don't really know what would be best. But then there were, other districts that sort of said what we were saying, that, it's really important for this to be analyzed, by the Department of Education. However, we've asked for you to contact the DOE. Here's their email address to send, this letter with this information. So I'm wondering if we want to do the same letter, to the Department of Education, if we want to just send the Department of Education like one letter from the district with this information, because essentially, as I understand it, the legislature sets up the framework for the formula, like what can and can't be done, and then the Department of Education actually creates it. So sort of sets the limitations based on what the legislature allows. So I think it's important for them to see this too. I don't know if they'll be as interested in the bills per se, but I don't think it hurts.
I think it would be very easy to do that, whether it's a separate letter or not.
Okay.
So last year, we sent it to the governor's office and local legislators. It doesn't appear that we directed any direct correspondence to the DOE specifically. So I'm looking at the job form now, so that's why I'm speaking of it. We actually had a disclaimer in there too, so we told the public that after hitting submit, the message will be sent to, and then we listed everyone who was on there, and it's all elected officials. We could have, this takes no time. It's just a matter of, are we gonna kick another letter around for a couple months?
Right. Well, I would
Wanna
use the
get it out
same
there.
letter.
That's what I'm saying.
It has to get out.
Yeah.
Right.
This letter,
State officials.
you just simply added on and members of the DOE.
Mhm. DOE officials,
Yeah, I know,
yeah,
it's not cutting a corner. We could always go back and retcon it, but
yeah,
I think for the purposes of heading into the final month of the year as we turn over the government in
Mhm.
January,
right.
we could set up. This is what it looks like. You can find
Yeah.
the website. It's a very easy form. The tech department with no, as long as we
Great.
provide them with the content
Where
and the
is it?
specifics. I'm looking at Mike now. I'm not asking you to. It's very easy to install on the website. We could have it up easily.
And you'll have the addresses for people that want to mail it?
Yeah, the only thing, I would just want to do, and we don't do it right now, we could talk about it, is, just verify who we want the recipients to be, which
Right.
legislators and which, individuals from the DOE.
Mhm.
And then we just have to make sure that that's clear and make sure that everyone that we're asking, and then give instructions on how they can get hard copies. And then we'll reach out to the township and, leverage all of our community networks to see senior center, rec center, anyone else that wants
I
to
think
go.
that's where the
Yeah.
land is.
Okay, yeah, I think that our local legislators, right, so our senators are, assembly people, senator, assembly people, governor, and, the chairs of the education committees. Do we want to do budget committees? I don't really know.
Sure.
It's not like a budget appropriation, but it also obviously affects the budget. I guess it doesn't hurt to send it to them.
No, I think that it would be nice if one side says Monroe and the other says, oh yeah, we heard of Monroe too, oh yeah.
Yeah. And then for Department of Education, I know they have that SFRA funding, email. I don't remember exactly what it is. Reform, I think, email perhaps. So we could maybe add that. I don't really know who that goes to. And then I do know there's a person in charge of finance at the DOE. So maybe him or her, as well as the commissioner.
I'll compile a list, and I'll circulate it amongst everyone, and then once everyone's good with it, we'll assemble the distribution.
Get it out.
Oh my God, that's. All right, anything else? All right. So actually, I'm gonna just go to the third topic next. Because this was about community engagement, which sort of ties into what we're saying about getting the letter out, as well as, engaging for other reasons. And so one of our board goals for this year is to try and engage different groups that are within our township, whether it's parent organizations or civics organizations or things like that, to help with our advocacy causes. And so I actually had found out at the most recent Cultural Arts Commission meeting that the mayor has it's different than the Commission on Aging, but it's basically like a senior advisory committee that is one representative from each of the different groups. I forgot the official term for the different active adult communities, AACs.
Active adult.
So I guess, Gail, I don't know if you know about this, living in one of them, about the mayor's commission.
I'm on the commission for aging, so I
Okay.
don't know about the other.
So, right, because from what I was told, this was sort of his way to get feedback from each of these groups. And so I thought that might be a great place for us to reach out, whether it's to the group itself or to the different representatives, to sort of ask them to pass along the information. I know we had started compiling that list a few years ago of those contacts. Obviously, I think, PTA, PTO groups are a good place for us to reach out. I think that, we can reach out to.
Are they looking for a representative from the school district
For
to sit on the committee?
the seniors.
Yeah, to hear what they have to say.
I don't know. That sounds like
No,
a
I
great
thought that-
idea. No. It was just that I had heard that this existed and I felt like it would be a good way for us to connect with the senior communities, but I guess that's something we would have to talk to the mayor about. I don't know if it's not an official commission, so I'm not sure.
So is it like their own little citizens advisory committee?
From what I'm gathering, yeah.
And I'm not, so it sounds like it's not uncommon. Some school districts even do it by content rate.
Mhm.
So it wouldn't be, I think that anything that we can do that can further acclimate the community to the comings and goings of any organization, public organization, like the rec department, the rec has their committee.
Mhm.
But as far as the school district, are you suggesting that the board takes a seat on it, or?
I was I guess the first step would be finding out from the mayor exactly
Yeah.
what it is and if there is any room to network between the district and this group, and whether that's just sharing the information to pass along to those members or having a representative attend the meetings that they're having. I think the first step would just be finding out from the mayor if there is a way for us to connect. I don't really know too much about that group other than what I had heard, a couple of weeks ago that it existed. And so it sounded like a great way to add more communication. But I just don't know too much more about it yet. So I feel like that would be the next step. I'm happy to reach out if
One of us on the committee could reach.
I was gonna say, if you're okay with that. But I do think that it could help us get into some of the communities that maybe, aren't seeing as many things on our Facebook page and stuff.
So you're just looking to broaden our network,
Right,
communication network?
yeah.
And this could be a potential opportunity. We do have a pretty extensive list of communities,
Mhm.
to outreach and, we push information out. We get to 12 or 13 of them.
I will, again, at the risk of overcommitting, because I don't know much
Right.
about this. We've always had very positive experiences when we've been able to interact directly with senior communities, whether that be through even when they didn't agree with what we had to say, through like budget. The interaction was always positive and fruitful, so we would be open to at least communication from a community relations standpoint.
I can tell you that living in Rossmore, I know, I gave you Carol DeHaan's, information. She called me and said that she wants to put in, actually, I just got my newspaper today, an article about the schools, so that everybody in Rossmore at least knows, like she even mentioned Applegarth, and this was a couple months ago that I
Yeah.
gave you the information. And she wanted me to tell Zach that she was a former journalist, which you said she could probably be used.
Yeah, so we reached out to her.
Oh, you did?
We did, and we are, one of the things we are currently examining is, as the latest addition to our work-based learning program, is the much similar to our sports marketing and our IT interns, our communications and journalism interns, who would then work with us with the Monroe news and any other opportunities we have, and also some of the other local.
Yeah. Would they go?
Yeah, so, but to the original point, I think from community relations standpoint, we would prefer the community not get their information on Facebook.
Right,
Oh,
yeah,
Yeah.
So, yeah, we
It's not
want
always
them,
accurate.
anytime we can have official, you know.
right. Well, I kind of meant like our district
Yeah,
Facebook,
no, I
but
get-
I get what you're
Yeah, yeah.
saying.
Again, we like that they go there and they can get, again, that's more just about celebrating kids and stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that would be, I would imagine why the mayor's office would want to do that, because that generally tends to be positive. experience.
Do we have any accounts besides Facebook, official accounts?
On
Because
Instagram,
okay.
we do have,
Because less and less people are using Facebook.
right, so there are certain things that we talk about this a lot.
Yep.
We envision that at some point Facebook is gonna phase out.
Yeah, it's
But for
already,
now, it's here to stay, and I know as, in the current construct of our learning community, as it stands, it still becomes a viable way, for good or for bad, to get information out.
Mhm.
Our students are on Instagram,
Mhm.
and we're aware of that, because we look at the engagement stuff. We had a Twitter account, it becomes a little, or X, it becomes a little it's a little more tricky to govern, and it's a little more restrictive in the
Mhm.
content we push out, so I've actually stopped pushing out to it. The only other official district, social media account would be the MTHS Sports Marketing Interns. And the reason why that's official is because it's vetted by 2 layers of teachers and administration prior to being pushed out. Other than that, everything else that you would see would be either, you know, again, there's some good, you know, sports teams have them, they're fine, they're not bad. It's just, I wouldn't count on any of that being official. You know, even if it looks good, yeah, just, it 9 times out of 10, it could be, even like I'm talking about like times.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know who's posting it all the time. If it comes from our Facebook account, there's only a very small amount of people that are clicking post. And if there's a mistake on it, it's probably just someone mystified though,
Mhm.
which happens from time to time. Never noticed.
Is there any connection from our district to like, we don't have like a local newspaper right in our town, like I know like East Brunswick, they have like their own like the Patch and Tap Into and stuff like that. But whether it's like a Home News Tribune or something like that to share like the major articles, is there?
The only official publication that goes out to official media would be whatever we have put into the Monroe News most recently.
Okay,
We submit, there's been times when I've sent out press releases, sorry, I resubmitted this one, I'm sorry. There's been, I send out press releases regularly, depending on what it is, which would be, it's written in a way for hopefully the journalist would just take and run with it.
Mhm.
But that becomes a journalist's work if their editor decides to run it. I have no say over what, I could submit a great press release if they, they can take it whatever they would want to do with it. But the only official communications from the district are coming from Messenger or XR. Anything that it does official Facebook pages that I mentioned, or Dr. Lynn over the phone,
okay.
or the principal votes.
All right. Just the other thing really quick, and then we'll move to the next thing that I thought of for the community engagement. Because I know we're in the Monroe News now. There's also the township has, it's like an e-newsletter. It's like a shortened monthly one. So I don't know if for this purpose, it might be too late for December, but because it's a smaller publishing, maybe they'd be willing to share even just like the link, help school district out.
One of the things I would like to do, and it's part of our way of addressing, the community relations component of the strategic plan, is to set up a regular routine, schedule of communications. Like we're getting closer with Monroe News, but we're in the process of looking at our Falcon Towns newsletter as well. Ideally, we would be able to sync up. I'll tell you right now, if anyone's listening, if anyone has it, if someone said, as long as you get me something every 6 weeks, we'll run it, we would have something every 6 weeks. Even so much we're making an organizational and a curricular commitment to that, which is why we're going to install the interns next year. Because not only do we want to have students learning skills that want to study it, but, at the same time, we're developing a new Monroe News show that's taking place in the mornings here at the high school. And we want we talked about it last year, we haven't really talked about it in a while, but we have that new broadcast server that we installed through in partnership with the township. And we still have goals of developing more newsworthy, more broadcast style programming. We just redid the entire video production course at the high school. So, there's definitely room for it. It's just media is tough to get a hold of, especially stuff that you can count on people to sit down and read.
Right.
And it's slow.
Yeah, I was
That's the
gonna
other-
say, my husband gets the home news, I don't know why. And something that happened that we know of on maybe the weekend, the article's in there Wednesday or Thursday. And we already knew about
Yeah,
it.
our student intern, gave, and this is, no fault to the Monroe News, we're grateful for it. We submitted the fall sports preview back in July, because that's when their deadline is. They had to get out by Labor Day, so they need to edit and everything.
Right.
And by the time it hit the print,
Yeah.
and so, and that's why, but again, as great as that was, it was a great practice for the student.
Right.
We had broadcast 3 games and 6 highlight films by the time that came to print, but I think it's important to recognize there is still a large component of the community that looks forward to getting that newspaper. So I think that's why what we do put in there, and we've been very strategic with, if you look at the articles we've selected to put in there, it should be something that you can read and that may not necessarily wane in its interest with time. So we talked about the robotics program and their accomplishments. We did a winter, we did our winter
Winter
concert calendar back in, and we talked about athletics and the golf team, because it was a story that might have been interesting 6 weeks old. I don't know if an update on the Applegarth project, I don't know if that's what your friend was looking for, but
Well, she
yeah,
mentioned it as being something that maybe people would, because we drive by and everything.
Well, but if I submitted, when we're all back in there and we talk about how awesome, because when they get back in there, it's gonna be, people are gonna be, this is awesome, so that's an interesting story, particularly because it really should be celebrated about how many different parties came together to make that happen. And, really the unsung heroes at the middle school and the Applegarth school that that allowed the teaching to continue while it happened. I can't wait to write a story about that.
Can invite Carol to the opening.
Yeah.
And, have her just be there to, take notes on it for Rossmore. I know Yale, before he left, he was speaking to somebody at Rossmore, and that they're setting up a concert in the spring. So that's something that, we might want to read in our newspaper, hopefully not too late. But, something that can be sent out to us early enough to put it on our calendars, so.
Right. Yeah, I think.
Still nothing's best though, when you get them in a room like this and you can talk to them.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what they want to learn about until they figure out what we're doing too. So-
Right, and Carol had.
And that's just not the senior communities, that's all the parents that we meet in. the
Right,
future.
right.
Right.
She had asked, she stopped me, she lives down the street from me, and she stopped me and asked me, who do I talk to about,
Well, maybe she'll see me down the street next time I'm in Rossmore.
what street is your mother? No.
Maybe later.
I don't want your mother's address put up with the thing here.
She would probably wouldn't care.
Yeah, I think that what you're saying is also part of it, just whether or not we're sharing the articles directly with the newspapers in the communities, or if they are writing them based on the information we're sharing, right? Like I know, Linda used to write wonderful articles about the school district in the Rossmore News. But then I also know that there's other, I don't know if it's other
Mr.
communities here. Yeah, Mr. Boyd does.
And he's run stuff for us before.
Right,
Yeah.
so, and I would never want to take that away from the people who want to do it. I also feel like getting a monthly column feature from the.
We would,
school
but that
district
would
might
be,
nice
so
as
if they
well.
want, so when I, if I was going to submit something to, not just Mr. Floyd, but the Regency or something like that, or
Stonebridge will
Stonebridge,
have
yeah.
their own paper too.
I would, if they want the article from myself or one of the students or one of the staff members, I would just ask the teacher to write it and we'd work on it together.
That's great.
But if they prefer it themselves, I would give them a press release.
Okay.
Yeah.
And generally, that's how the industry would prefer it. I mean, do sometimes journalists take my press release and put their name on it? Yes, but if when that happens, that's what you want, because then they're printing your your story.
Right.
So generally, we'll write the press release in its form that we want the district to be represented, which is always founded in fact and truth. And then it's up to them as the journalist and their journalistic integrity
Mhm.
to do with it what they want.
All right.
But we will refute them
Mhm.
if necessary.
Sounds
Just
good.
never.
Yeah.
Point.
Right. All right. We are going to move on to our last topic for tonight, which is the creation of the school calendar. So this was an ask by a few of us sitting up here as well as community members who would like to get sort of as early of a calendar as we can provide because there's a lot that goes into scheduling, you know, other things as well into it and coordinating calendars. And then also, you know, just you know, sort of understanding the way that the calendar is created, and talking about some of the things that cannot be changed, you know, that have to be in there as well as some of the other challenges. So I don't know if Dr. Lehman, you want
Yeah.
to start?
So, I mean, the development process really begins with, you know, taking a look at the bookends, right, the beginning and the end of the school year. And then we fill in the middle with any of our basically required days off, whether it's holidays or, you know, teachers' convention and things like that. Then we layer in any contractual requirements we have, whether it's, you know, conferences and half days related to that, or 4-hour sessions related to that. And then also, you know, we consider our staff development needs and the, you know, responsibility we have to provide those opportunities, you know, per our plans and expectations for the teachers to get their 20 hours a year. And then we really take a look and see where that lands. We want to make sure we have as many snow days as we can. And each calendar year annually changes because all of your holidays land on different days. Sometimes they're all on the weekend. Sometimes they're all in the middle of the week. Sometimes we start a little earlier, depending on, you know, the beginning of the school year than Labor Day. And then the tail end of the school year is often defined by when the graduation date is. And we have a little flexibility because we do have priority when we pick that day over other districts that would prefer to use. But once we start locking in, we lose the ability to really change because they begin to fill their schedule in around us. So, you know, as for what we look for next year, we certainly hear the feedback. I think we're coming off a couple years where a lot of the holidays were literally during the week, in the middle of the week, this next school year, and we haven't laid it out yet. We started to do some preliminary looking. We really, when we flip the calendar, that's when we are able to lock in our graduation date. You know, we definitely see a lot of the holidays are on the weekend this year, which gives us some flexibility. And in theory, we're picking up school days that we didn't have this year. We do have a potential later start date this year. So we'll have to see how we actually begin the calendar based on where the holidays are. And then, you know, we have to confirm with the graduation site to see if they have any of their paying customers. We're a paying customer, but they also have other paying customers and things about where our graduation weeks could even potentially be. So it'll come together, you know, very early in the winter. We certainly hear the feedback, you know, whether it was during board meetings and stuff about specific days off. There are some things that, you know, we can certainly, you know, the past few years, we've been trying to put a specific attention to the 4-hour sessions and just trying to focus on those to see where we can, you know, maybe address some of the frequency of that. So it's another thing we'll continue to look at.
Yeah, I know last year that was one of the concerns we had had, and there was we had gotten rid of the ones where like the kids that are not in high school or middle school don't go home early on
Yeah, I
those
mean,
days that don't affect them.
I think those
That
got the, I think, a perception that they were, the other part of the district was getting off because it was proms and stuff like that. In reality, those are district staff development afternoons. We would do scheduling, class placement. We would do, you know, reshuffling of files and not files, but we would do a lot of the end of the year wrap up stuff within the buildings. So, that's something that, we have mandatory trainings that we do each year. You guys that are in education know we have all those. So those are times that we do a lot of those mandatory trainings. We're working around that this year. So I would definitely take another look at that potentially for this year because we do have a purpose for those. But I think, some of the 4-hour sessions and other parts of the calendar, we can take a look at and see, again, a lot of the 4-hour sessions had to do with recognizing some of the holidays that we would traditionally like to be off on, but because of the way everything in the calendar played out, we had to get the kids in for at least a 4-hour session to get to our 180 days. So, again, just like our winter break sometimes is almost 2 weeks long and sometimes is barely a week long.
Yeah.
Every year is a different look because of the way everything plays out. That's why, as much as we want to have a really consistent, calendar, we are as consistent as we can be. But again, the variables it's not just our calendar, it's the multiple calendars that feed into our calendar.
Right.
And I guess that's my general overview without speaking to the calendar next year, because again, it's something we've started to put a framework together. We'll pull the pieces together probably in the next month or so. We'll start running it through our associations for their feedback. And we share obviously with the board through our, confidentials, get some
Right.
feedback, and then we bring it to the public. So
So I just had 2 quick questions and then I want to open up to anyone else who has. So the first one, like when you mentioned the graduation day requirement that, we need to make sure we have that locked in. And
Yep.
I don't know if you're able, because we were talking about this a little bit, but I know a lot of the high schools also go to these places, but they're sort of able to, I guess, put out the calendar, whether it's like, I know like Old Bridge does it that year earlier, or, or like whether it's towards the beginning of the year for the following year. So I don't know, like, if there's a way to, I don't even want to say predict it, because obviously we can't predict when, Cure or whoever we're using will have that availability, but sort of be able to work with them for or find a tentative date and be able to get it out.
yeah, we're not going to get any feedback from them. And I don't know, I know some of them use PNC and things like that. They may have a 2-year calendar that they operate on,
For
they may have
PNC.
things or whatever, but,
Mhm.
I think if we were to go out more than a year, we'd have to accept the fact that if we're a week off on graduation, we're totally revamping the calendar. And if the goal is to communicate the calendar in advance so people can plan vacations and things like
Right.
that, then there's the risk that we're off by a week because that's when the end of the school year is going to be. And those vacation plans or whatever the intent was, are going to have to be changed. So
Okay.
I think it's it's a conversation we've already had with the Cure
Mhm.
in terms of looking pretty far out, but we can certainly bring it up again. The things that don't change are, some of the religious, observances we take, and obviously Veterans Day and things like that. We can kind of plan those out in advance and teachers convention and stuff. But it's the kind of middle, the
Right.
bookends,
Yeah.
that do have some variables. So, we can certainly take a look and see, take a look and see 2 years ahead. But again, when you put it out, you have to be willing to have some potential serious changes,
Right.
right? So then are people upset because they thought it was in stone,
Mhm.
but in reality it's not?
Right, and I don't know how
Or-
often they changed in there. I just see the calendar that's created, so.
Yeah, and we change our own calendar. Like,
Right.
if we have more than one snow day, we're gonna have to change our calendar because we only have one snow day built in. And that's certainly, again, it's a product of this year. Every single observance we had was during the school year. And it's all throughout the year, spring, summer, or spring, fall and winter, everything was in the middle. And we have a really long winter break as well. So it's like the perfect storm for a really packed calendar.
Mhm.
So we have one snow day. If it's before President's Day, the first day to take is President's Day, then we start taking off of spring break. So, the goal is to build in a couple, maybe in 3 snow days would be ideal. And some days, some years, 3 isn't even enough. We know that, right? So that's another thing to take into consideration is building those 3 days in on the front end as well. So,
Okay. All right,
and those are a couple days that we don't have in our calendar this year. Right?
Yeah.
So we're thinking about,
right,
we got some days that aren't during the week this year, they're on the weekend. A
Mhm.
couple of those could just turn into straight up snow days, right?
Right.
So they're not days we're getting back in the calendar per se.
yeah,
So, and the other feedback we got, and we got it last year, we'll take a look at again for this year, is just the format of the calendar. Just to
Mhm.
take a look and see, is it a one pager, like a one-sider kind of format? What's a good quick reference piece? We have a lot of information flagged on there, everything from testing windows to days off to 4-hour sessions. But is it always easy to find without having to look at a specific day? And that's just something we'll take a look at as we develop the calendar,
right.
at least the published format for the calendar.
Mhm.
So,
All right, just the other part of it, and this came up last year, is that week in November. Like, for me, like, and this was a discussion we had, until like we are able to remove those polling places on election day, like, I feel like it's hard to have school on that day, even though I understand we have security, but I feel like there's just a lot, especially with it being at the elementary school level. And then I felt like because I know, like, one of the things I've heard, being an educator from other teachers and parents, is it's hard to get into a routine with having a week off after you're finally getting in, but I feel like having the day on and then a day off for election day and then a day on, you're really not getting a routine there. I don't know if I know there's a conversation we had with, I think it's the county. I don't know if we reached back out to see if there's any chance of removing those last 2 polling places. But, that's something that I feel like affects the calendar potentially, because if we're able to remove those polling places, then we no longer have that 3rd day off in that week.
so I can speak to that. I know
Okay.
there's a lot of interest from districts, not just in our county, but across the state to really limit elections and polling in schools.
Yeah.
So I don't see them taking it out of all the schools, because I think some communities, that is the only place that they have the technological infrastructure to get, the voting done, and it's the common place. So I wouldn't hold our breath in terms of, that changing anytime soon. We were advocating, we continue to advocate. Our best bet is locally within the town to help each other find another comparable place in a
Right.
very similar location. And we did that this past year,
Mhm.
just moving the voting, out of one of our schools. So again, I think that's something we will continue to work on, but I wouldn't hold our breath for next year
Yeah,
for anything changing, because again, the lead time on that change is massive.
Right.
Right? Because we're thinking just some of the bigger elections, but they are potential voting locations multiple times throughout the year. So their deadlines for changing anything are probably already passed for now, for the next calendar year. So,
Which
one,
schools are left, sorry?
so, we're voting at, what's it?
oh, go ahead.
No, we're voting in Woodland still,
Woodland?
and we're voting in, it was Woodland, Brookside, and Oak Tree. Those are the 3 that we had left.
Oh, they're still
Okay.
free,
We
okay.
had Woodland and Brookside that are,
Oh, those are still, okay.
yeah,
Right,
Not Oak Tree anymore?
No.
So just down to 2?
Yep.
yeah, and I guess like, and this wouldn't be us, because I would be curious what the polling places near there look like. I'm at the rec center, which is not far from Woodland, and it's usually not packed.
I think there's like a
yeah, I mean, that's something,
It's not our job,
it's
I
something
guess.
data wise to continue to look at in terms of early voting numbers versus mail-in voting,
Mhm.
where, and then day of election voting. And then there's a difference between presidential elections, gubernatorial elections, and then,
Yeah.
a mid-year election, midterm election. So,
Mhm.
we are in school for primaries
Yeah.
in June,
Mhm.
right? But again, I'm not advocating to be on general election Tuesday.
Mhm.
That's not something, but again, we look at every year whether that Monday and Wednesday are viable.
Yeah,
And again, it plays out on the calendar, and then it also, we have attendance data. Is attendance from our students better on that Monday and Wednesday than when we have to call an unexpected change your plans, come in on the April vacation,
Mhm.
right? Are more people already on vacation then, and is student attendance lower and worse then? So is it better to have scheduled school days on that Monday and Wednesday? And not have enough snow days and start taking unexpected days out of spring break. So,
Right.
that's one thing we look at again. We are in this position past couple of years because everything is during the week, right? All of our, I believe as we look into next year, the majority of them are not.
Okay.
So again, we're picking up some days next year that we theoretically were off this year. So again, it's a fresh look every year and, there's a lot of opinions and a lot of, feedback and
Mhm.
things.
Absolutely.
Anyone else have
No.
anything calendar wise?
Nope.
Okay. All right, that is everything.
Okay.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.